Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, April 21st, 2023. And our top story today, does retirement legislation to expand access actually threaten the private retirement system? And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Brian Anderson is the managing editor of 401k Specialist magazine. Brian, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, always a big fan of 401k Specialist, and really fortunate to have you on and share some of the great work you guys are doing over there. And so, Brian, I want to, start off with my first question is, what's the Retirement Savings for America Act, and why should we be concerned if we're supporters of the private retirement system?
Yeah, this kind of kicked off in earnest as the Retirement Savings for Americans Act. It was introduced late last year by a group of bipartisan senators with kind of an eye towards 2023. And then the Napa 401k Summit in San Diego a couple of weeks back, Brian Graff, in his opening from the Hill to the Summit session, kind of put the industry on alert about a new threat, and that threat would be the Retirement Savings for Americans Act. So the act is based on a white paper proposal from the Economic Innovation Group, which is kind of a well-funded, well-respected Washington, D.C. think tank. Teresa Ghilarducci and Kevin Hassett, who was President Trump's former chief economist, they kind of outlined a proposal in their white paper to expand retirement savings for low to moderate income Americans. They want to, expand it to millions of low and moderate income Americans through a new program that's run through the Treasury Department, and it would be modeled after the federal government's thrift savings plan. So what it would do is give workers who don't have access to an employer-sponsored plan access to a TSP-like program. So if enacted, the Retirement Savings for Americans Act would auto-enroll eligible workers at 3% as soon as they're hired. Low-income workers are also eligible for a 1% automatic contribution from the government and up to a 4% matching contribution via a refundable tax credit, which is up to 5% total. It would be portable. It stays with the employee at new jobs, or they can toggle out of it and into a private retirement plan. So that's kind of what's happening. And now we're waiting to see if this it's going to be reintroduced in the next couple of weeks, apparently.
So that, Brian, and thanks for that explanation. I mean, the thrift savings plan, obviously, let's kind of unpack this a little bit, because TSP, very popular. It's probably the largest DC plan in the world, or at least one of them, right? I mean, serves millions of federal government workers, American military, and they always brag that they have the lowest cost in the land, right, in terms of overall cost. And you would get that with economies of scale. But one of the big issues in our industry and just in general for Americans is access. And we're seeing that being addressed through SECURE and MEPS and PEPS, and you guys have covered that. We've also seen the states step up and do state IRA program. So is it my understanding, and again, we don't have the regs yet because we don't even have the passage, but this would actually federalize and kind of remove those opportunities. It would seem to me, it would say, okay, well, forget what the states did, forget what, pooled employers are doing and pooled plan providers are doing. Let's just bring it all into the federal government.
Yeah, the fundamental issue at play here kind of is that coverage gap. There's a lot of figures out there that say roughly 60 million Americans don't have access to a workplace retirement plan, and then 52% of Black workers and 68% of Hispanic workers, and that's compared to just 40% of white workers. So the ARA knows that at some point policymakers in Washington are, they're going to want to tackle this if the private industry doesn't tackle it first. So the plan to do it through the TSP, through a TSP-like program is, it's an interesting proposal, and we're going to have to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hoops here, right, Brian? I mean, it's not uncommon, and we saw this during Secure. We've seen this in other big omnibus bills where people throw stuff out, it gets a little bit of traction, and they try to see what sticks. And I think it's part of the broader conversation. I mean, I think we have to be, my personal opinion, and not you can share yours. My personal opinion is it's always good to talk about different policy measures, but you got to figure out what works and what could work and what couldn't work. And putting 50, 60 million people into a federal record keeping system, I don't know, that just seems like a big ask and a lot of work, and that's a lot of staff that you would have to do all that record keeping, Brian.
Right. Well, and the ARA kind of says that the bill amounts to unfair competition that would upend the entire private retirement plan industry, and now that's pretty strong. Brian Graff likened it to a giant multiple employer plan that would be run by the Treasury Department.
Yeah.
So now some of the problems, the key gripes, I think, are that the federal plan would not be subject to ERISA rules or non-discrimination testing. Another key issue is that federal government covering the matching contributions. And the ARA is also concerned at the very idea that there's a lot of bipartisan support for such a program. So I think they're kind of gearing up. Brian Graff has said, ARA has said that they don't expect this to pass this year. They don't expect it to pass next year, but they think it's going to be a years-long battle.
Yeah, well, I think it's a battle of ideas, and that's what in a representative republic you're supposed to have, and I think that's good. I know Brian and the team at ARA as I know you do, and I think they're able to convey the importance of a private retirement system. Hey, Brian, I got to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this act, the likelihood of passage, and a lot more. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Well, Brian, thanks so much for sticking with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, this is a fun way to, kick off the weekend, I think, for a retirement nerd like us. We cover this industry. We've been in this industry for such a long time. It's so important, the path forward. And I think the industry, Brian, has been doing a great job in refining over the last 40 years. But there's definitely room for improvement. Let's talk about some of the rebuttal. Brian Graff, who runs the American Retirement Association, obviously gave his point of view, alerted people to the concerns that he had, the industry should have. What's the rebuttal to Brian's commentary?
Right. So on our last podcast, we had the Economic Innovation Group CEO, John Lettieri. He came on. He was a little perplexed at some of the ARA's concerns with the program as proposed. So he said he kind of said that the lack of coverage is the major problem in our retirement system today, and this addresses it also, in addition to addressing that this would also address the incentive issue. He pointed out that today most of the tax incentive for saving in workplace retirement plans goes to higher income workers, and the government is matching the contribution for low income workers. So that kind of targets the gap. So, Lettieri said that, the policy is not capable of displacing what currently works in the system. It's not capable of being a takeover of the private system, nor is it intended to be that. He pointed out that, most employers who offer a 401k have higher income workers. They couldn't or wouldn't jump to the federal plan if it's enacted. So he said the proposal is targeting that market gap that for decades has not been served by the private plan system, and says it's not being targeted at all. So the idea that this is unfair competition, he just wrongly assumes that it's competing with the private system, which he said it doesn't. It's targeting workers that are not served by the existing system exclusively.
Yeah, and Brian, when I think about recent legislation, completely different arena, but I think of the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act in, what is that, 09 or 08, I don't know, 10, whatever it was. Yeah, they call it Obamacare, but the Affordable Care Act, right, that was created to provide people who did, in exchange, really, to buy insurance. We can debate the merits of that, and we can debate what the Supreme Court ruled or not. But I wonder if that is a similar type of instance where, a lot of people decided that they were going to forgo employer insurance, and they were going to go on the exchange because the exchange was cheaper, because it was subsidized at some place by the American taxpayer, by the federal government. So is that an equal? I don't know if Brian brought that up or anyone's brought that up, but it sounds to me very similar in scope and impact.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that way, but I guess it's kind of an interesting point. And no, I don't think the ARA has really mentioned that specifically, but one thing I did kind of find interesting is that the ARA is a little frustrated, I think, that the Secure 2.0 provisions are not being given an adequate runway to work. There was 92 provisions in that thing, and a lot of them were intended to promote expanding access to lower income workers. So I think the ARA is really hoping that, if this doesn't pass this year or next, that at least the Secure 2.0 provisions will be given an adequate runway to actually make a difference, and that maybe the private retirement plan industry can actually make a dent in that coverage gap.
Yeah, well, and you're right. I mean, we just had passage. We're waiting on regs, right? I think, I'm sure you've talked to this on your podcast and in your written publication, or at least digital publication, I'll call it, but it's typed. But you covered the fact that people are looking for regs. We need regs on certain provisions in order to implement, to make the systemic changes that have to happen at the record keepers. You got to be able to issue that. We need that in order to move forward. So it's kind of like the chicken before the egg. Brian, what are you hearing from? Obviously you attended Napa, excuse me. Are you hearing anything from key advisory firms or record keepers? Are they kind of wobbling at the knees a little concerned like Brian?
I think it definitely caught people's attention. I think after Secure 2.0 passed, it was like, is this the next big thing, the next big battle coming up? And I think it's got people wary. I think it's probably they used it as a call to solicit donations to their PAC, and that probably was very effective in that.
Yeah, well, you know how it goes. It's always the political season, right? I mean, that's how it works. You raise money or issue a white paper. I mean, I've never lived in Washington. I grew up in Baltimore, but that's really the way Washington works.
Right. I will say I was encouraged. Recently, we reported on Pew Charitable Trust research that found that those first 3 states that started the auto IRA programs, was it Oregon, California, and Illinois?
Yep.
Their research has found that those programs actually spurred more companies to offer small retirement plans. So I thought that was very interesting, and that's encouraging that maybe these auto IRA programs are actually helping the private retirement plan industry add more small plans.
Well, Brian, I know that I agree with you, and the state IRA plans have made a dent. Brian, where I would like to see effort put in, financial literacy and education. We need to have financial literacy in all 50 states. What good is a savings plan if people aren't around to use it? I know they're talking about mandating and bringing people into the plan. We know how the word mandate, the M word, is kind of, people feel about that word. It's sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. But I would like to see a focus on education around budgeting, financial literacy, the things that we really need to do to give people a good baseline for making those key financial decisions.
Yeah, there's a lot of momentum, it seems like, for financial wellness programs. I wish more states would be adding mandatory financial literacy education programs. I definitely think that's a very important thing, and it's certainly an underserved market right now.
Yeah, well, 30 of the 50 states, I guess, and the district, they don't, 30 of them have it, the others do not. Hopefully they're working on that, but I think this is really another key area that we need to focus on, me pretty personally. Brian, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great to talk to you. Keep up the great work with 401k Specialists. Give the best to the team, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
All right. Thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate it.
And that wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, or visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN Weekly. We'll be taking a look back, back at some of our best segments of the week. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.